È bello avere quello che ti serve quando ti serve. Con Easy Bank, la banca digitale di Intesa San Paolo. Easy Bank, semplicemente banca.
Benvenuti all'Illumia Park, dove le passioni si accendono, le offerte sono elettrizzanti e l'energia va oltre. Illumia, insieme, oltre l'energia.
Vi prego, vi imploro, con umiltà e con fiducia, permettete a Cristo di parlare all'uomo.
Don Gius aveva capito il problema che avevo. Se la tua vocazione è vero, il tuo lavoro verrà fuori anche dai sassi.
Di comunicare la fede agli altri, ma veramente insieme a loro riscoprire che cos'è la fede, che cos'è la fede per me. Portare Cristo agli altri, comunicarlo agli altri è l'unico modo che abbiamo per conoscerlo veramente.
L'iter communionis aiuta a comunicare all'esterno la ricchezza di vita, di giudizi, di tentativi, di opere che nascono dalle persone e dalle comunità. L'iter communionis è proprio la vita del movimento. Scrivete all'iter communionis le vostre esperienze, ci fate bene.
È bello avere quello che ti serve quando ti serve. Con Easy Bank, la banca digitale di Intesa San Paolo. Easy Bank, semplicemente banca.
Benvenuti all'Illumia Park, dove le passioni si accendono, le offerte sono elettrizzanti e l'energia va oltre. Illumia, insieme, oltre l'energia.
Vi prego, vi imploro, con umiltà e con fiducia, permettete a Cristo di parlare all'uomo.
Don Gius aveva capito il problema che avevo. Se la tua vocazione è vero, il tuo lavoro verrà fuori anche dai sassi.
Di comunicare la fede agli altri, ma veramente insieme a loro riscoprire che cos'è la fede, che cos'è la fede per me. Portare Cristo agli altri, comunicarlo agli altri è l'unico modo che abbiamo per conoscerlo veramente.
Communionis aiuta a comunicare all'esterno la ricchezza di vita, di giudizi, di tentativi, di opere che nascono dalle persone e dalle comunità. L'Itere Communionis è proprio la vita del movimento. Scrivete all'Itere Communionis le vostre esperienze, ci fate bene.
Questo è un luogo che genera dialogo,
Qualcuno che si impegna, che si batte.
che approfondisce la conoscenza e sostiene la fiducia. È un crocevia dove si incontra chi desidera il vero, il bello, il giusto e il bene. È una testimonianza di speranza nel cuore ferito del presente. E tutto questo
Proporre con la propria vita.
esiste anche grazie a te.
Buonasera a tutti, benvenuti a questo incontro, grazie di essere
Good afternoon and thanks for being so numerous here. Before we start, I'd like to invite the President of the Rimini meeting, Bernhard Scholz, on stage for his initial remarks. Good evening, and thanks also on my part for being here. Thanks for participating in this very important event. This is an event in which we're going to talk about a country that deserves all of our attention. First of all, I'd like to greet and thank His Excellency, Monsignor Hanna, Jallouf, the Apostolic Vicar of Aleppo. Thanks a lot for being with us. I'd like to greet the Deputy Prime Minister and Minister for Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, Antonio Tajani. I would like to thank you very much for being here today, and I'd like also to thank you personally, your ministry, and the Italian government for your commitment in favor of religious freedom worldwide. I'd like to greet in particular the Secretary of State of the Republic of San Marino, Luca Beccari, We are very grateful to be able to host this meeting at the Rimini meeting. Please be reminded of the fact that Syria has always been, since 2015 onwards, been discussed here at the meeting. There have been representatives, Syrian representatives here at the Rimini meeting. Thanks a lot also to the Terra Sancta association, thanks to which we have been able to welcome our guests, the guests coming from this suffering land. We are all united by a common hope, that is to say that Syria can find again its vocation to be a country characterized by the coexistence between religious communities and different religious cultures, religious communities and cultures. This country always suffers violence and conflicts, sometimes in an international context, which sometimes doesn't seem so prone to peace and to conflict resolution. Italy has always been committed to favor peace building, and that's why we are deeply grateful to our guests who will help us better understand the current situation and illustrate the possibilities for a more peaceful future in Syria, a country rich in history, culture, and humanity that really deserves to live a climate of peace, in a climate of peace, and in peaceful relationship between the various communities as an example, and to serve as an example for many other countries in the world. Thank you very much. Thanks very much, President Bernhard Scholz. Another important guest of this meeting is Luca Beccari, the Secretary of State of San Marino. Thank you very much. Thank you, and good afternoon, everyone. I am deeply grateful and honored to be able to greet you on behalf of the Republic of San Marino to this edition of the Rimini meeting. Our friendship has been going on for decades. San Marino and the Rimini Meeting Foundation have often discussed topics like this and in general the activities discussed and shown, displayed during the Rimini meeting. The topic we're discussing today is to be contextualized in a very unstable scenario, which is really difficult for everybody. When we switch on our TV, when we read the news, we are often used to think, to reflect upon several contexts, some of which take place in Europe. The Palestinian and Gaza, the Palestinian conflict is another one very close to us. So congratulations to the Rimini meeting, because the focus is being brought again on another area in the Mediterranean that has been raged by wars and internal conflicts. This has yet another, a diverse meaning, that is to say, that of a land that has to find its capacity, its ability, the ability of different religions and communities to coexist again. San Marino has always focused on interreligious dialogue. This has always been one of its most important pillars, one of the most important pillars in its foreign policy. About 20 years ago, when we had the presidency of the Council of Europe, San Marino has since then wanted to carry out a political strategy involving all the countries of the Council of Europe, focusing on interreligious dialogue. And that's at the very basis of coexistence and peaceful cohabitation between different cultures, especially given the fact that all conflict areas today are also characterized by strong religious counterpositions and differences. These are not slogans. We're not saying this because these are nice things to say. These are rather elements that we need to think about, and we all need to give a contribution. A very important tool we have to solve these problems is multilateralism. That goes without saying. However, the entire community should become more aware. So there should be more awareness raising in this respect. And I think that an occasion like this one is particularly useful. So I'm not going to delve into this any further. On my part, I would like to greet you and thank you once again. Many thanks to the Secretary of State, Luca Beccari, together with President Scholz. They have introduced the topics of this meeting. So Christian presence in Syria and religious freedom, these are the two main topics of this meeting. So I'd like to kindly invite the two rapporteurs, the two speakers of this meeting, the Italian Ministry for Foreign Affairs, Antonio Tajani, and the Monsignor Hanna Jallouf, the Vicar of Aleppo, Apostolic Vicar of Aleppo. Thank you, Mr. Minister. You can take the central seat. First of all, welcome to the Rimini meeting. Before we start, I'd like to open this debate with a provocative sentence, which I hope will be effective. That's the sentence of a Syrian Christian whom I met on the occasion of a recent trip to Syria about a month ago, where I also met Monsignor Jallouf. And this person told me, we went from a dictatorship to a terroristic regime. So what a nice progress. What nice progress. This is some kind of a mantra of the Christian community in these months. Up to some months ago, the protection of religious minorities in Syria was kind of imposed. Everybody was to be respected. Every religious community had its own place. Then, between the last week of November and the first week of December, Al-Jamani takes power and actually reverses the regime of Bashar al-Assad. And so 50 years of the al-Assad dynasty were overthrown. And since then has been a series of violences and conflicts. We've seen lots of pictures that have, in a way, questioned religious coexistence that had, up to that moment, proven itself for what it was, a system that was kind of imposed from above that had not grown bottom up. And so I met lots of examples, lots of people who wish to leave the country, like that of the person I mentioned before, because of out of fear that they can be discriminated. Then there was an attack at the end of last June, and that also contributed to increase this fear. We had the possibility to visit this church in Damascus, and martyrs lost their lives on the occasion of this terroristic attack. And outside the church, there was this group of Christians who had taken their gun, their rifles, to defend the church from other attacks. So that's the simplistic, very simple picture. That's the context we have to discuss. Given this context, what's the meaning, what's the goal of discussing about religious freedom in Syria, and what contribution can we give to for this to take place? And we have the occasion to basically discuss this with outstanding people. Monsignor Hanna Jallouf, the Latin Bishop of Aleppo, and the Italian Ministry for Foreign Affairs, Antonio Tajani. His Excellency, I'm going to start from you. The story of Syria and the religious presence of Christians there is yet to be, in a way, narrated and written. However, you can give us a very precise idea. You can sketch a precise context of what we're talking about. We've been the priest of Knayep in the province of Irbid, and there we had as a governor the current president of Syria. Back then, the name was Al-Julani. Now his name is Ahmed al-Shara. He grew up in Damascus. He studied medicine, and he then became a member of Al-Qaeda. Soon after September 11, he became one of the closest followers of al-Zawahir. He went to prison. Then he founded Jabhat al-Nusra, the Syrian movement of Al-Qaeda. He was an ally to Erdogan. He also, in a way, tried to become friends with the Americans. So, I mean, this guy has a very nice curriculum, so to say. So you lived a number of years in those villages, and you actually witnessed the presence of Al-Jurani and of all the jihadist groups that actually made Syria as it is now. And I'd like to start from here. Can you please tell us something about this? What kind of relations could you establish with the people who are now governing Syria? I think this is a truly interesting narration on your part. So,
thank you. And also, thank you, Antonio, for being here. We met last year when we opened the Italian embassy in Damascus. And I'd also like to thank you for inviting us for this meeting. And I'm extremely glad to be here to give you my contribution as a Christian. And I'm extremely glad to talk about the Christian world. I was in the province of Idlib in the northern part of Syria, and we were 10,000 Christians, 11 parishes. We had several Christian communities there, Latin, Greek Orthodox, Armenian Orthodox, and Protestants. At the beginning of the war, they all went away, and only 700 people remained. The priests went away, and also the nuns also left their communities. There were 4 communities, but they all ran away, and only 2 Franciscan monks remained in the 3 villages. So the first thing I did was I tried to call all of them, and I called them. I said, you see, well, those don't want us. They don't know about our differences. They all think that we are all enemies. But now we have to keep united, all of us together, in order to live witnessing of our Christian life. So if we have a piece of bread, let's share it, all of us together. And this is how we started. The first group that came to us was ISIS. So this was the first group that arrived. So if you hear the word ISIS, probably you think about death, and you think about murdering, prison. And well, obviously, you have no future when ISIS comes. After 3 days of them arriving at us, their religious boss, the head of the religious movement, came to us. He knocked on the door of the convent. The nun opened the door, and he said, "I'm Avveduto, Tunisia." Where's the father? And the answer was, he's not here. Where's he gone? I don't know. When is he coming back? I don't know. And so once he received this answer, he said, tell him that tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock in the morning, I will come back to see him. And he went away. So the nun came to me, and she told me about what happened. When I heard his name, my heart was beating so fast due to fear. And then I prayed. I said, Lord, this people is not mine. This is your people. And please give me wisdom. Give me the wisdom to know what to do. The day after, at 9 o'clock in the morning, sharp, he came to me, and two armored cars arrived with people on board. They all were wearing masks with rifles on their shoulders. And they closed the roads. And one very tall man, 190 centimeter tall man, came to me. He was very arrogant, and he said, how are you, Tunisia? And I replied with the same tone of voice. I said, I'm Father Hanna. Please come in. Well, he wanted to go inside the convent, but I stopped him and I said, you with your weapons, you can't get inside with your weapons. This is a holy place. So he had a reaction. He said, with our weapons, we can get anywhere we want. We break everything. We break even into mosques with our weapons. And I said, well, if you believe that your weapons will protect you, then, well, welcome. You can come inside. And so he had one of his men coming inside the convent, and he started to invite us to join the Muslim faith, the faith of Muhammad, of Islam, and with many of Quran verses. I was there listening to him, and as soon as he finished, I said, you told me that your name is Avveduto Tunisia. So this means that you come from Tunisia? Tunisia, before being Muslim, was actually a Christian country. And Tunisia gave to the Christian religion a lot of saints. Saint Augustine, Felicia Perpetua, Cabriano, Santa Monica. And so I'd like to invite you to go back to your Christian origins. So he got very furious, angry. I was talking to an ISIS religious boss. He is not a normal person. And he said, I don't believe in history. If you don't believe in history, why are you coming to us? Why are you coming to see us? And then slowly I started asking him, who founded ISIS? Who's your founder? What are your ideas? In order to calm things down. And then he said, look, I'm not a Muslim, and you will not be a Christian either. So I will not be a Muslim, you will not be a Christian. What can we do in order to serve the people we have here with us, to do good? So he said, if you don't want to be a Muslim, then we can reach the Omar Treaty. This is a treaty, an agreement between the Caliph, second Caliph of Muhammad, and Sophonius, the Patriarch of Jerusalem. I didn't know what this was. I didn't know. Well, I pretended I didn't know what this treaty was about. I asked him, what is this treaty? And he said, you have to put down all your religious symbols, all your statues, all of your scripts. We don't want to see any Christian symbol, any Christian side outdoors. You will not ring your bells. Your women will wear a veil. And I looked at him and I said, no, especially the last two. Our women are not going to cover themselves. Our women are going to be dressed in dignity. They will wear scarves. This is okay, but not any more than that. And also, according to the treaty you're mentioning, you will have to protect us. Because we are not pointing our weapons against you. So can you protect us from missiles and from the government planes? No, we can't. Then let's not talk about it. You know, wherever ISIS was in Syria and in Iraq, every Christian person had to pay 17 grams of gold. Instead, we didn't have to pay anything. We didn't have to pay anything in the end. And this is thanks to our agreement, the agreement we reached. And then I said, listen, if we don't obey this Omar Treaty, if we don't accept it, what happens? He said, I'm going to burn everything down. I'm going to burn the village. I'm going to burn the church, the convent, and I will declare it an Islamic state, part of the Islamic state. So I said, so this is your religion? This is the religion you're inviting us to join? And he said, listen, either you're going to do it or we will knock down all the religious symbols. And I said, we put them up, we're going to put them down. But then I said, listen, I have a person that was kidnapped 58 days ago. Can you please help us set this person free? Or can you please help us find where this person is kept? He said, inshallah, if God wants. And I said, inshallah, does it mean yes or no? Please, can you tell me yes or no? Are you going to help us? He said, I said, inshallah. And so I replied, does it mean 80%, 70%? And again, he said, inshallah, again. So then our discussion ended. And that way, it was Saturday, he left. The next Friday, and in the meantime, we had put down our crosses, the religious symbols. We didn't ring the bells, the church bells, and all the other things he wanted. So they came back in 2 cars. They knocked on the convent door, and the same man came, and he said, well, this is the man you asked for. You see, I kept my word, you see. And I said, I also kept my word, you see. Since the day you arrived, I haven't rung the bells anymore. So this means that you didn't just keep your promise, but we also kept our promise. And, and then a sort of a friendship started. A very unusual friendship started. I wouldn't know how to define it, actually. And, well, probably this is the first time you associate ISIS with friendship, maybe. A friendship was born between us, quite of a weird friendship. And anything they wanted, it could be food, water, or something else, they ask us, Christians, because they are afraid of other Muslim people. So they don't trust the other Muslim people. And also at night, all the things, our things that had been stolen, like cars or agricultural machinery, they brought it back to us at night, and they said, please don't say that we are the ones bringing them back. And so they stayed with us for 105 days, and then they left. So this was actually the first meeting with ISIS. And then Rebirth Nostra, this is the Liberation Front that came to us, and they said, how did they do? How did they manage to do it with ISIS? And I replied, I explained, and I said, this is what we did. And then after 1 month, they started, they stopped it all. They, well, they canceled everything. We couldn't say anything against a Muslim. It was prohibited to turn the TV on. It was prohibited for us to speak out of our houses. It was a nightmare. It went all back to being a nightmare. And they also decided that in our churches, you know, we have golden things like golden crosses and lamps and gold objects. They stole everything. And then one day they came to me. They said, we want to see what you have inside the convent. And I said, okay, of course, you may come in. They came inside the convent to my office. They started going through the papers, the documents, and they also saw a letter that I was writing to the Ministry of Interior Affairs for a friar that had been killed by them. And the letter said, I'm Father Hanna. I'm a witness of the fact that friar, his name, was killed. Please take note of that. And he said, take a pen and another piece of paper and write what I'm going to tell you today. This is Father Jallouf, the parish of Kene. I was killed by Rebirth Nostra. And sign. So I signed. He took the rifle and pointed the rifle against my head and wanted to shoot me. The other man next to him said, stop. We still don't know what they have in the convent. We still don't know what they're doing. And he said, look, if I'm not killing you today, I will kill you tomorrow in the square in front of the entire world so that everybody knows what you have done. And I said, people know what I have done, but tomorrow they will see what you do. All right, so I asked to meet the religious head of Rebirth Nostra. And after 2 days, they came to me. They called me, and instead of going to the religious head, they took me, they kidnapped me, they put me in prison with 17 people from my community, men and women. And then they stole everything we had in the convent. So I wasn't beaten. I wasn't beaten up. They respected me maybe because I'm a friar or because I'm the head of the community, but they were very violent against the other people since they wanted to invite them to change religion. So we spent almost 20 days in prison. And when they started questioning me, he said, listen, you have collaborated with the Syrian government. You have accepted the army. I said, listen to me. First of all, I'm the head of the religious community. And if a person of honor comes to me, I have to receive that person. It doesn't matter who that person is, but you have collaborated with them. Yes, I collaborated with them, I said, for humanitarian reasons. I have divided my convent into 3 sectors. I have Sunnite, Muslim, like you, in one sector, Lawites in the other sector, and a Christian in the other sector. One Sunnite Muslim woman was in labor. Her husband came to me and he said, please, Father, can you help her? Can you ask the army to let us go out of the village? Because we don't have medicines here. We don't have any doctors. There's no one who could help her, and I don't want her to die due to labor. This is our first child. And I said, all right. So I talked to the head of the army, of the troops, and he didn't want to let them go out. And I convinced him. I said, you have to let them go. This is a very important humanitarian, human case. I will report you to the mosque. He said, give me 5 minutes. I gave him 5 minutes, and then he wanted to have the name of the husband, of the woman, and also the car plate number. So I gave him all the details, and they let them go. And this is what I did. I said, for 8 months, you kept the army, and but with my word, I managed to have the army open up and let them go. So this is something that I did. And then I don't know how I reacted exactly. I said, you have no mercy, you have no faith, no religion. And then I said, listen, why have you put our women with the men in the same room, 17 people together in prison, in the same cellar? What should we do then? Do you put your mother with men? And he said, no. So what do you want? And I said, call each one of them and let them go home. The day after, the morning after, they took all the women back to their houses. And again, this was something good I obtained. And then slowly, as I said, after 19 days, they called me. And they told me, don't tell anyone that we're going to set you free. You can go back to your convent, but you can't go out of the convent. We will keep your documents, your ID. I went back to the convent. The people had already prepared their luggage to leave the convent. When they saw me, it was something shocking. They all ran to me. They all ran to the convent to greet me, and some of them even came on foot, some down on their knees. They started kissing my dress, my sandals.
So I understood what love means and what Christian means. And then gradually things have gone on. There was no blessing. Most Christians were exterminated and left and sent away. One day I was called by a judge. I spent 7 hours at the door. I was left there waiting for 7 hours, standing. After these 7 hours, I went in. I managed to go in, and nobody answered to my greeting. So the first question the judge asked was, why are you wearing your Franciscan clothes and your Franciscan robes? And my reply was, why are you wearing your robes? Because I'm a judge. And then I said, okay, well, then I'm a friar. I'm a monk. His collaborator basically was about to slap me in the face because he thought that I dared answering the judge in that tone, with that tone. But then I replied, what evil words did I say? The judge replied, well, you shouldn't wear any religious sign, a religious symbol outside your convent, and your robe is a sign. My reply was, actually, if this is something that you don't like, actually, it saves our believers. So to me, I'm not gonna take them off. So I went back to the convent and said, okay, I said to my brother, we shouldn't wear these robes outside of the convent. And things went on like this until 2017. Il Giurani in 2017 started thinking about in a way doing some kind of a coup. So he basically started approaching the Christians, other groups. But things were proceeding very slowly. There was little progress made. And then in 2022, I asked for a meeting with him. So we organized a very good meeting. We prepared lists of people being murdered, people being kidnapped, the names of our religious people. We had this meeting. He came in, greeted us, and the first thing he said to me, he said, actually, I'm not coming to you to, in a way, tell you what you should do, but I'm coming here to listen to you. And I replied, yes, actually, we are also here to, so that you can listen to us. And so we started talking about all the things that had happened in those years. Even myself, I was put in prison. And they asked, who did that to you? And I replied, well, actually, your people. And this is something that shouldn't be done. So he told me, it's June. I hope that in June next year, all your problems will be settled, will be solved. After a couple of days, I received 4 of his collaborators, and together with them, we drafted a working strategy based on which we could, we return all the assets, all the goods to the people. And I said, before doing that actually I didn't want to have any convents or churches or trains. The first thing I wanted to have was justice for the widows and the orphans. In 2 months, we gave back the houses to the widows. And then gradually we started returning our religious things, so our gardens, and then gradually also the houses of other people and the lands. And today we are continuing with this strategy. So there are 3 Christian villages that in which we are returning people the lands. On the 1st of July, 2023, the Holy Father appointed me as the bishop for Syria. I don't know how these people learned about this. As soon as they learned this, I was sent 3 of these collaborators who congratulated me on my appointment, and who told me that their leader actually wanted to celebrate me in Erbil, but actually that I had to bring somebody with me. And I said 7 or 8 people, at least 40, they said. So I was surprised. Yes, 40 people. After 3 days, I was sent a bus, 50 people with 50 people seats, and I was sent a white Range Rover. My car was driving before the bus, and then we went to this place. They had booked a place with a banquet, really with lots of things to eat, and then there was the dessert and lots of fruits. And then everybody received a gift. And it was really incredible. They received a gift, as if we had taken part in a wedding. And I asked why, and they replied, because you are our groom.
E così poi mi hanno detto il suo.
You are our spouse. So the leader is inviting. We were told that the leader was inviting us to visit him again. So a couple of days later, me and Father Dwight went to Italy again. And the leader was personally, he personally welcomed him at the door. So we went in. We started talking. And I said to him, our founder, St. Francis, 800 years ago, met the Sultan al-Kamel. We don't know what they talked about, but we know what the consequences of that meeting were. As a consequence of this meeting, the friars were allowed to accompany pilgrims to the Holy Land and to build holy places. Now I'm leaving this place, I'm leaving the Christians in your hands to guard them. And he replied, I will do that with my eyes. A couple of days later, I left, and 5 of his collaborators at 4:00 a.m. were there to greet me, and they accompanied me up to the last point between them and the government. And then his last words he spoke were, we will meet again in Aleppo. Okay, I said, fine. And then 1.5 years later, indeed, his troops came to Aleppo. So all the leaders of his troops, I know them personally because I had to deal with them personally. All of them went to visit me, to greet me. His deputy, his vice, asked me if I wanted to speak with another guy, so I spoke to Shara on the phone. And on the phone, he told me that I had to inform my people that all of their goods, all of their assets will be safe, that we are basically guarding their houses, churches, plants, their offices. It was, so Christmas was approaching, so basically he told me that they had to prepare the Christmas festivities well, embellishing the churches, the squares with Christmas trees, with the bells ringing. So I reported this message to the Christian community, to the bishops. They were also afraid, since after 6 years of regime, you tend not to believe. But I truly think that the Lord is capable of providing the right solution, even when the situation is not right. And that's why for this new, so I'm grateful for this new mission he's entrusted me with.
Ancora grazie.
Once again, thank you very much. Mr. Minister, you met President al-Shara last time in Syria after the collapse of Assad, of the regime of Assad, and you said that Italy is willing to rebuild the new Syria. Can we trust them? What guarantees can Italy ask and receive vis-à-vis a new form of collaboration, and also with reference to the right of religious freedom, which is one of the most important rights of man? I had a meeting with al-Shara. The meeting lasted about 2 hours. And the Italian government decided to, in a way, open the door to the new administration, even if we knew that we had to keep our eyes equally open. But we had to trust them. For Italy, it was fundamental to keep to maintain the territorial unity of Syria and to avoid that this unity could be jeopardized, because that country is so important for the stability of the whole Middle East. Syria is a country of educated people. It boasts an important history, and for us Christians, I mean, that's one of the countries where Christianity was first born, because the first Christian communities were set up there. Knowing the story of this man, I was astonished. Frankly speaking, I met a leader with a high profile, with a high cultural profile. He actually talked to me as a real statesman. He would talk in Arabic, even if he learned English, if he knew English. He told me that, in his view, only Syrians had to be considered, aware that there are no Christian Syrians or Muslim Syrians, that there are only Syrians. I knew well that if I had spoken only of the Syrian communities, I would have probably generated a negative reaction on his part. And as a matter of fact, he complained about the other Westerners, because all the other Western leaders had gone there to talk about Christians only and not about Syrians in general. And so before meeting him that day, I went to visit the mosque in Damascus with St. John, sorry. And then I met the entire Christian community in our embassy. And we had our bishop there as well. And he told me that actually he had no intention the leader told me he had no intention of creating problems to the Christian community. He praised the Christian community. He said actually the bishop was a person of great esteem. He had in great esteem, and that there was a relationship based on friendship between the two, that he considered our bishop as a very important intellectual. In other words, he gave me a very clear message. He told me that he was not willing to do, that he was not going to do anything wrong and harmful to the Christians. So having said this, we have to trust this man. That's the only guarantee we have now. We know well, however, that even a small group of his supporters is in favor of Daesh, of the Islamic State. I mean, they had problems with other groups. I mean, that's a very weak unity. The Turks are strongly present there. However, Italy's political interest is to maintain Syria's unity and stability. We immediately invited Italian entrepreneurs to invest. He promised us that he would have not favored illegal immigration, so he wanted to reassure Italy and Europe that there was not going to be any diaspora, and that it was his intention to build infrastructures, and so that he needed companies creating infrastructures because there was great potential in Syria. So I'm trusting him. I mean, we have to do exactly as our bishop did, as the vicar did. You have to trust your interlocutor and you have to have faith. Otherwise, one runs the risk that you're not going anywhere. We're going to send additional aid. There's going to be another mission to Syria. We also reinforced our embassy and increase the number of staff in Damascus. We are also in contact with the Apostolic Nuncios. That has always been a reference point for us. Italy, also on the occasion of the terrible earthquake that devastated the Syrian area close to the border with Turkey. Also on that occasion, Italy was one of the countries that helped the population in a very significant way. We've also been the first country, and you reminded this in your very interesting interview, in a very nice interview with L'Avvenire. You've always said that we are a reference point for Syria. We wanted to play this role, but also within the G7 group of nations, so the group of the most important Western industrialized countries in the world. Also, the G7 would like to express a positive message towards Syria, in the hope that al-Sharawi, al-Assad, can, in a way, win over the extremists, the fundamentalists who supported him. Then there's another topic. Why should we defend the Christians? That does not concern Syria alone, but the whole of the Middle East. Should we do this only because we're Christians? Of course, I mean, that's part of the answer. Why were we angry? Were we, in a way, outraged when the Israeli army attacked Christian communities? Not because we think that Christians are more important than the others. Actually, human life is important, is always important. We are all born equal, and we are all equal before the eyes of God. But we defend Christians because Christians are an element of stability and peace throughout the Middle East. So erasing the presence of Christians in the Middle East means that we are harming peace. Aleppo was one of the most important Christian cities in the Middle East. But now, unfortunately, the Christian community has become smaller and smaller. However, the presence of Christians is an essential element. Unfortunately, Christians are escaping Palestine and those areas because they have to find refuge in other places. It is ultimately very difficult to be Christian. However, I believe that what was told to us, in other words, that you are not, in a way, show yourself subdued to your interlocutor, ultimately leads to respect towards yourself. In Italy, too, when there's a Muslim who comes to Italy, when he or she sees that we are ashamed to say who we are, that we remove crosses from the schools, that we no longer celebrate Christmas properly, what can he think? Actually, he's ultimately thinking that you are brave enough to defend your faith, that you are an unfaithful. They do not ashamed of being Muslim. Actually, what we say is actually, okay, you do what you want. But that's not correct. Respect is something fundamental. We have to be brave enough to defend our identity. Otherwise, we should not complain about the fact that they build mosques. We have to say loud and clear that we are Christians, that they are Muslims. We want to have reciprocity, but we have to be courageous to say who we are and to be respected. Otherwise,
io credo che la salvezza.
I believe that saving that community has been possible because of an act of courage, because of moral strength. So faced with the arms, you said, okay, I respect your treaty, but I am a Christian and I remain Christian. In other words, you did not kneel down. Also, when actually you talked about the robes, he replied commenting on the interlocutor's robe. In other words, that was a test of strength, a test of power. Strength and power are more solid than violence. In order for strength to be affirmed, you need to have courageous people. Of course, one can be afraid, but I believe that that community was saved because there was a friar who did not kneel down and who proudly said, I am proud to be a Christian. Actually, I do not disagree. I respect my commitment, but you're doing the same. I think this is also a fundamental element to underline. Then, having said this, there's a risk of persecution that's clear, and that has always accompanied the history of Christianity. So there are attempts of persecution, of subduing Christians coming from certain groups. That's clear, that's evident. That's why I say that we should trust Al-Shara, but we have to make sure that he guarantees the unity of the country. So Christians, Alawiti, all together, I mean, they're all Syrians. He's not a different Syrian compared to a Muslim one. So we have to encourage this kind of attitude. However, I would also like to say that we cannot close our eyes vis-à-vis what Christians suffer. Christians suffer precisely because of the fact that they are Christians in the world. In the world, there are hundreds of thousands of Christians being killed all over the world. I wanted to appoint a special envoy for the protection of religious freedom. That's the fundamental issue. I mean, we have to have religious freedom as well as freedom of education. It's not the state who decides what you have to teach at school, and you cannot send your child to a Catholic school because you're not Catholic. So here too, we have to defend religious freedom. Oftentimes it seems that actually we say, okay, we're Christians or Catholics, and then that we are weird because of that. Actually, it's not like that. It's just a fact. And the state has to support me. It's not the state who has to support what I need to do. The state is called upon to actually come out with rules, but then it's myself who decides what kind of teaching I can convey to my children. And there's another topic. Hiding behind the presence of other religions is yet another issue that has to pertain our inner freedom. If I am afraid of declaring myself as a Christian, well, then I deserve being colonized from a cultural and religious point of view. I mean, we have to be courageous. We have to be brave. Here in Italy, all over the world, unfortunately, this is not always like that. There are too many countries in Africa or in Asia where we need to protect Christians. Let's think about Pakistan. There, it's necessary to protect Christians. That's a general issue. Christianity is the only one universal religion. Everywhere there's a church. Tony Blair used to say this here at the Rimini meeting some years ago. He said that he was visiting an Eastern country. He actually entered a church and felt home. And here lies the strength of Christianity. So I think this is some kind of a universal action, what we're called upon to do. We need to defend the values of Christianity. And then, of course, you have martyrs who do not give up. You could have also served as a martyr when you said, okay, I'm a Christian and I am going to remain such. Probably he was so strong that he forced his interlocutor, the religious head of ISIS, to respect him. So he managed to gain the respect of his interlocutor, probably because he was more sensitive. Had he been less sensitive, he would have probably reacted using weapons. So he would have passed from the defender of his community to a martyr. And fortunately, God wanted him to save his community. But being Christians is not always easy. Expressing our own faith is not always easy. History has taught us this. There have been lots of martyrs, and that's because we always, for us, the person in his or her relationship to God, it always comes first.
My family comes from a village in Frosinone province where the holy saint is Saint Ambrogio. And he was a Roman centurion that in 304, during the repression of Domitian, because he was a Christian, he was killed as a martyr. But he was a man from the Roman army. But even if he was a soldier for the Roman army, well, Diocletiano didn't want it, didn't accept it. So this is what is not accepted in many parts of the world. I was very shocked by this when I was a child, but actually this is what happens to many Christians. And they provoked Jesus with the coin. And, well, you know, the others want everything to belong to Caesar and not to God. And sometimes, even in societies with no Christianity, people want nothing to be given to God and everything to be given to Caesar. But then, if you want to erase a God from history, and I'm telling you as a Christian, you know, this is what happens with the dictatorships in the last century, communism and the Nazi, biological materialism. Cancelling God from history means cancelling, erasing human beings from history. So I think that we have to defend Christian communities in order to avoid human beings being cancelled from history. We want Christian humanity to continue in Syria. And we want it to continue also in Europe, because we see that churches are empty, or we only see people with grey hair in churches. This means that something is not working well. This is why we have to work. We have to be brave, just like him, with the same bravery as him that he had when facing the religious head of ISIS, also in front of our interlocutors. And, of course, he was at risk. They were going to kill him. But sometimes we feel embarrassed to say who we are, and we lose respect for ourselves, and also the others don't respect us. As a consequence, this is why I think it is worth helping the Christians of Syria, helping them, because this is a universal battle that we want to fight, hoping that the Christians can really help Syria to get out of this very difficult moment, just like we would like Christians to help the Middle East, but also we would like some more of Jesus Christ here in Italy. We hope that the Lord, that God will help us even more here. We need it.
Grazie al Ministro.
Thank you, Minister Antonio Tajani. I would like to take the chance now for the very last questions. Also, based on what you said, I totally agree with you, Minister. You said we have to be brave. We can't put our head down, and we have to keep it up. And also listening to Monsignor Jallouf, you talked to the leader of ISIS, and now I'd like to ask you, what can we do? We have to be brave, but we also have to show charity, and we have to be able to love everybody, to express love for everybody. I have a question. Please reply with few words. Damascus Christians, Aleppo Christians want to flee. Many of them want to run away. I know that you don't agree with that, but I'd like to ask you, what is their future in Syria? Do you think they can really remain in Syria? Do you think that there will be space for Christians in the Syria of the future? Well, people say that Christians have blue bones. Why do they say that? There's a reason for that. Because when they were persecuted, they used to put a rope around their neck and pull them. And as a consequence of that, their skin was blue, their flesh was getting blue. This is why people say that Christians have blue bones. And there are so many stories about the Christians, and they were persecuted in history. They had to pay a lot for being Christians, but they never left their faith. They never abandoned their faith. In today's context, the first thing we have to do is to help Christians discover their Christian dignity again. We have to help them remain in their land without leaving their countries. Because then when they leave their country, they become just a number. Well, very often when they go to another country, they become just a number. But in their countries instead, they are a very important integrating part of their nation. And they are witnesses of the presence of Christianity. And here in Syria, well, this is where Christian people were called Christian for the first time. This is why they have to remain there. I'd like to take the opportunity to thank all of those who helped our Christians over this time through ATS, and also thanks to all the other humanitarian institutions and organizations. Thanks to your support, we could remain there. So help us build the country. So this is not about Christians, but as His Excellency said, we are not looking for our small Christian community in Syria, but actually we are looking looking back to the Christian culture that goes back to 6,000 years ago. We are looking for our life that has to go back to what it was in the past. And Syrian people were, we had very good, very tasty Syrian wine. And we hope that you can come to Syria and taste our very good wine one day, hopefully. Thank you for your reply. Thank you for your answer. And now I'd like to ask a minister, if we look at the future of Syria, what can we wish for the future of Syria? What can Italy do? As the Bishop of Aleppo said, we can help Syria build. They need infrastructure, they need railway, they need, of course, they need to connect Damascus to Turkey, as they also want. They want to be connected to Turkey. They need airports, ports, and they also have a lot of natural resources. They have gas, oil. So we want to help them use what they have, the resources they have, and also we want to guarantee cultural continuity because the history of Syria is very ancient. Syria is a very educated country with a strong identity and a very rich history. So we have to prevent ignorance from winning. We want to prevail. We want to keep on educating young people because, fundamentalists from ISIS base their activities and their work on ignorance. This is why we want to establish a strong collaboration with Syrian universities so that they can train and educate young people so that they stay in Syria and not flee Syria. While I was listening to you, I understood one thing. I have a friend. He was a Syrian priest in my parish. Then he became a bishop. He's called Jean Jambar. And after the destruction of Aleppo, he said, now I'm working to build houses. And I thought, well, how come a priest is a builder now? Well, actually, he wants to build houses so that Christian people don't flee from Aleppo. Don't run away from Aleppo. He doesn't want to be active in the building business, but he's a religious man who wants houses to be rebuilt in order to give houses to the Christians so that they don't leave Aleppo or Syria and go somewhere else in the world, because their presence is very precious. We want to make sure that in a modern, united Syria, where different religions coexist, we want Christians to be there. This is going to be useful for the stability of Syria and the Middle East. We have to do the same for Christian Palestinians. We want them not to leave Gaza and Palestine.
Grazie. Allora, visto che l'ha citato, mi permette.
Well, thank you for what you said. Well, I would like to set some light also on the Gaza Strip and Palestine. Well, this is a dramatic situation. And as you said, right now, when the Patriarch of Jerusalem, after being in Gaza, he said that the Christians of Gaza were asking to allow their children to go back to school. So they need to have a place where peace can be built, where the values of coexistence and freedom and love can be taught. So this is the urgency. You were talking about fighting against ignorance universities. I also believe, and I'd like to conclude this meeting wishing for schools to be rebuilt. Schools have to be the place where social peace and unity can be reassured. Peace and stability for Syria tomorrow. Thank you for being here with us. And thank you for bringing your witness to us. Thank you. Thank you, Minister Tajani. And thank you for your witnessing, and thank you. Have a nice evening.
Questo è un luogo che genera dialogo,
Qualcuno che si impegna, che si batte.
che approfondisce la conoscenza e sostiene la fiducia. È un crocevia dove si incontra chi desidera il vero, il bello, il giusto e il bene. È una testimonianza di speranza nel cuore ferito del presente. E tutto questo
Proporre con la propria vita.
esiste anche grazie a te.
È bello avere quello che ti serve quando ti serve. Con Easy Bank, la banca digitale di Intesa San Paolo. Easy Bank, semplicemente banca.
Benvenuti all'Illumia Park, dove le passioni si accendono, le offerte sono elettrizzanti e l'energia va oltre. Illumia, insieme, oltre l'energia.
Vi prego, vi imploro, con umiltà e con fiducia, permettete a Cristo di parlare all'uomo.
Don Gius aveva capito il problema che avevo. Se la tua vocazione è vero, il tuo lavoro verrà fuori anche dai sassi.
Di comunicare la fede agli altri, ma veramente insieme a loro riscoprire che cos'è la fede, che cos'è la fede per me. Portare Cristo agli altri, comunicarlo agli altri è l'unico modo che abbiamo per conoscerlo veramente.
L'iter communionis aiuta a comunicare all'esterno la ricchezza di vita, di giudizi, di tentativi, di opere che nascono dalle persone e dalle comunità. L'iter communionis è proprio la vita del movimento. Scrivete all'iter communionis le vostre esperienze, ci fate bene.
È bello avere quello che ti serve quando ti serve. Con Easy Bank, la banca digitale di Intesa San Paolo. Easy Bank, semplicemente banca.
Benvenuti all'Illumia Park, dove le passioni si accendono, le offerte sono elettrizzanti e l'energia va oltre. Illumia, insieme, oltre l'energia.
Vi prego, vi imploro, con umiltà e con fiducia, permettete a Cristo di parlare all'uomo.
Don Gius aveva capito il problema che avevo. Se la tua vocazione è vero, il tuo lavoro verrà fuori anche dai sassi.
È bello avere quello che ti serve quando ti serve. Con Easy Bank, la banca digitale di Intesa San Paolo. Easy Bank, semplicemente banca.
Vi prego, vi imploro, con umiltà e con fiducia, permettete a Cristo di parlare all'uomo.
Don Gius aveva capito il problema che avevo. Se la tua vocazione è vero, il tuo lavoro verrà fuori anche dai sassi.
Di comunicare la fede agli altri, ma veramente insieme a loro riscoprire che cos'è la fede, che cos'è la fede per me. Portare Cristo agli altri, comunicarlo agli altri è l'unico modo che abbiamo per conoscerlo veramente.
L'iter communionis aiuta a comunicare all'esterno la ricchezza di vita, di giudizi, di tentativi, di opere che nascono dalle persone e dalle comunità. L'iter communionis è proprio la vita del movimento. Scrivete all'iter communionis le vostre esperienze, ci fate bene.
È bello avere quello che ti serve quando ti serve. Con Easy Bank, la banca digitale di Intesa San Paolo. Easy Bank, semplicemente banca.
Vi prego, vi imploro, con umiltà e con fiducia, permettete a Cristo di parlare all'uomo.
Don Gius aveva capito il problema che avevo. Se la tua vocazione è vero, il tuo lavoro verrà fuori anche dai sassi.
Di comunicare la fede agli altri, ma veramente insieme a loro riscoprire che cos'è la fede, che cos'è la fede per me. Portare Cristo agli altri, comunicarlo agli altri è l'unico modo che abbiamo per conoscerlo veramente.
L'iter communionis aiuta a comunicare all'esterno la ricchezza di vita, di giudizi, di tentativi, di opere che nascono dalle persone e dalle comunità. L'iter communionis è proprio la vita del movimento. Scrivete all'iter communionis le vostre esperienze, ci fate bene.